Hi, everyone. My name is Brennan Lamey. I am the founder of Kwil. And today we're going to be talking about building value capture in DePIN Networks. First, a quick just blurb about Kwil. So Kwil, we build decentralized databases. So for anyone that's familiar with SQL databases, that's what we do. These have a variety of different uses, from identity platforms to DePIN protocols to oracles and beyond. And so these are a few of our users. But getting into actually what this talk is about, so it'll be split into three main parts. The first one is why decentralization, right? Like, why are we doing DePIN and not just PIN? The second one will be how do we actually accrue value to these networks? And then the third one will be applying these two to see how we can build value capture models for DePINs. But so first, why DePIN? Why not just PIN? And so a lot of people refer to Web3 as a disruptive technology. And I think this is a buzzword that's thrown around a lot, and I think we kind of forget the meaning of it. But the term itself was actually coined in a book from 1996 called The Innovator's Dilemma. And so in the book, it describes a disruptive technology as any technology that shifts bases of competition. And a basis of competition is simply a feature or a functionality that products compete on for a user to buy them. Right, so like some very common ones are things like speed. A fast computer is better than a slow computer, or like convenience, or like a more convenient to use phone is better than a less convenient, or like cost. Like these are pretty straightforward, it's really not rocket science. And these are applicable to just about every product. And so one of the interesting things about these three examples is that Web3 loses on all of them, right? Like Web3 platforms, they are slower, they are harder to use, and they are more expensive than their centralized counterparts. And so like at first glance, this might be a little bit depressing. Like, you know, what do you do? And I think a lot of knee-jerk reactions to this are, oh, we should make Web3 faster and more efficient and easier to use and cheaper. And we're like, I'm not saying that we shouldn't be doing that. We should definitely be doing that. I don't know if that's the game that DePIN builders should be playing. Because remember, this is a disruptive technology. We're trying to shift the basis of competition. And there is one thing that Web3 is really good at that centralized platforms are not good at. And that is trust. Web3 platforms can be made much more trustworthy than Web2 platforms. And this is actually like the entire point of Bitcoin. Right? Like the second sentence of the Bitcoin white paper talks about trust and how it's a more trustworthy system. It's more trustworthy because we know exactly how much will be minted. There isn't arbitrary inflation. We know exactly how much will be made. And we have a cryptographic guarantee that we can spend what we own. And this does not exist with traditional financial systems. And so people often describe this technology as trustless, right? Like Bitcoin or Ethereum are trustless technologies. But really what this means is that we've kind of broken the axis of trust, right? We've hit a level so high that no corporation or even government can compete. And if you look at the top projects, a lot of them are playing this game, right? Like Bitcoin and Ethereum and Chainlink, they're all predicated on creating systems that you don't have to trust, even though they're slower than their centralized corollaries. And so I think the same will hold true for DePINs, and I think it largely has up till this point. Playing the trust game is a winning game for Web3 applications. Now, a big problem is how do you accrue value to this? It's shown to be quite hard, and I think for good reason, because a lot of traditional business models are not really applicable, right? Like if I have some service that you have to pay me $10 a month to use, then presumably I can choose to stop doing business with you and you can no longer use the service. And so it's not really trustless. We've kind of undermined the whole reason why we're here anyways. And so how the industry has accounted for this is with the use of tokens. And I think in particular, a lot of token models have been tried, but in particular, three models have emerged. So the first one, store value, something like Bitcoin, right? It's a means of exchange. The second one is a work token. So someone wants some work done. Someone is willing to do that work, right? Someone wants to execute a smart contract, and a network and the nodes that make it up are willing to execute that. And so ETH is merely the means of exchange for that. And then finally, governance. So, and this is a bit of a controversial one, but Uni, the token of Uniswap, controls the Uniswap protocol. A lot of people rely on Uniswap, and so I think there's a pretty fair argument that there is implicit value in Uni. But not all of these tokens are created equal, right? In the top 100 token market cap, only 0.48% of that market cap is made from governance tokens as opposed to stores of value and work tokens. Why is that? The key reason is because stores of value and work tokens are very sticky. Both of them are built on 2 or more sided networks. Like for Bitcoin to be valuable, there has to be buyers and sellers. And for ETH to be valuable, there have to be people that want to execute smart contracts and a network of nodes that are willing to execute those. And so even if we take this open source software, we copy it, we improve it, we raise some VC money, and we put it over here and say, hey, we're doing the exact same thing but better, and we will run it at a loss, and it'll cost you 1/10, people still probably will not use it. And like we've seen that over and over with all these alt EVM L1s. Like most people still prefer to use Ethereum despite the fact that it is many times more expensive. And this is because this is such a sticky network effect. It's so hard to break out of. And something like a governance token doesn't really have that, right? And so I think the most valuable and the most successful DePIN networks will play into this multi-sided market approach, right? And so distilling this, I think there are 2 things that DePIN networks should really be focusing on. One is the core value prop of Web3, right? Why are we doing this in the first place? It's because we can mitigate trust better than a Web 2 platform can. And the second one is we can build and accrue value to a token using a multi-sided market. And so this allows us to create sticky value accrual. Now, finally, how do we actually apply this to DePIN networks? So our team has gone through and we've looked at top DePIN networks, both using Kwil, but also just general DePIN networks. And we've identified the 3 models that we see most commonly and that we have seen accrue pretty significant amounts of value. And so the first one is the aggregated data market. And I think this is particularly applicable to things like IoT devices. And so in this model, there are data suppliers, right? Let's think IoT devices. And they're aggregating some data that alone might not be super valuable, right? Like one sensor getting some sort of data, it's not really worth that much. Like it's not something anyone would buy. But in the aggregate, this is pretty valuable, right? And so there is a product or a platform that aggregates all this and can sell it on the back end. And the means of exchange on both ends is built using a token. And so this is a sticky, 2-sided market, and it's very hard for someone to copy this code and just go spin it up somewhere else. A great example of a project building this that I think most people in the DePIN space are aware of at this point is PowerPod. So people that don't know PowerPod, they are building a decentralized electric vehicle charging network. You can maybe think of it like Airbnb for electric vehicle chargers. But so for them, if you're running their device, you can upload that data to the PowerPod network and you can get rewarded with their token. And then in the aggregate, this data is very valuable because it gives businesses insights into where people with electric cars are traveling, what is underserved, where are the hot routes, and what are the most economically viable places to build things like more chargers. And so they can sell this on the back end, and they can generate significant value for their network. And even if you have all the same technology as them, you have the exact same business model, the same tokenomics, and you copy it, and you just make it essentially the same thing, but somehow better, it's still really hard because they have this network effect of the aggregated data. Now, the next one that we see very commonly are developer platforms. And so in a developer platform, there's usually a uniform substrate, a storage layer, that has defined a few data models to coalesce around. And they also have a token that is used between various applications. And so third-party applications, they can come and they can build on this data model or the select few data models that they've built. And they are all using the common token of the platform. And so a really cool example of a project building this that I also think most people in the Web3 industry are pretty aware of because they've been around for a while is Trueflation. So for those that aren't aware, Trueflation, they are an inflation data provider. And so they're pretty famous for being probably the most accurate inflation data provider, like bar none on the market. And this is because they're able to aggregate from so many different sources. And so they have a product called TSN, or Trueflation Stream Network, that is a developer platform. And so it uses Kwil's smart contract language, and you can come on there, and you can build with Trueflation data, as well as upload your own, to create new primitives around it. And they've created what can be thought of as sort of the ERC20 for financial time series data. And now no matter what type of data you have, you can conform to this, and you can build on their developer platform. And all of the payments and all the rewards are issued using Truth, which is their token. The final one that we see pretty commonly are what we call individual data repositories. It's kind of a wordy name, but the concept itself is pretty simple. Once again, there's a uniform storage layer, and individuals are able to go and store data on that storage layer. And the key here is that individuals have the right to choose who can access their data and what they need to do in order to access it. And then once again, all of this is governed via a token. So if you want to access some data, you might have to pay the protocol and or user to access it. And similarly, the user is rewarded for the data they put on the platform. And another great example that has been in the news quite a bit recently is IDOS. And so IDOS, they are a reusable identity layer built by Fractal ID, which is one of the largest KYC providers in the industry. They've been around for quite a while. And they have built a platform where users can go and put their identity data on there. They're able to choose to share it with different applications, and those applications have to pay to access it. And all of this is mediated using the IDOS token. And so this is very similar to something like a Bitcoin, where the store of value and the method of transfer is the token, and it all comes around this very sticky network. And now, so these are three of the most common types, but it's certainly not all-inclusive, right? I'm sure there are other models. There are other models people are pursuing. There are also permutations of these models, but I think it probably gives a pretty good view of like what people have built and what has generally worked. I think you can certainly find well-established products that have used these models and have done quite well with them. And so our product, Kwil, allows you to build these really easily, right? So Kwil, it's an open source database. Anyone can pick it up and use it. And the really cool thing about Kwil is there is no Kwil token, right? We're not trying to get you to come and use our token. You can bring your own token. You can use ERC20s. You can use SPLs, on Solana. You can use near tokens. It's a very extensible system. And so 100% of the value you create can be accrued to your token. And you can create these multi-sided markets around your data and around your token. And so we have found this to be very useful both for newer projects as well as projects that have existed for a while and are now looking to make their value capture model more robust. And so whether you are a new project that's just getting started and you're trying to figure out how to build your smart contracts and how to build your value accrual, where you're going to store the data, or if you've been around for a while and you're looking to accrue more value and you're worried about long-term sustainability, definitely come and talk to us. Like at the worst, we'll both come away smarter, but at the best, you might find an open source tool that will make you a lot of money and save you a few years of hardcore protocol engineering. So that is all I have for you guys. I really appreciate you guys for coming out. And